Captains of Industry, brought to you by Airtel.
The situation is such that we've moved from an era of protectionism to liberalized competition, especially within the sector of cement manufacturing. With 10% of market share within this specific area of industry, Athi River Mining has taken a steady, a measured and focused approach to dealing with their rivals and getting on with the business of changing and building Africa. Before the break, Surendra Bhatia was talking to us about some of the challenges of value addition in terms of how African miners operate within their spectrum. They produce the minerals, process them, value add, and then sell them internationally, creating 5 dynamic products that they offer the market. This is also a family-owned business that went public in 1997, using the capital markets to grow their capital base. Thank you very much for still staying with us. Talk to us about that element of going onto the NSE, because one of the biggest weaknesses in East Africa is that you don't have a lot of local listed equities. And as we look at consolidation through the East African community and the rise of countries like Uganda and Rwanda, you're seeing this as a huge limitation. When we see the stock market rise, it's really because of cross listings from Kenya, and not because indigenous companies on the ground are saying, I'm going to raise my money through the capital markets.
Yes, I think you're correct. The capital markets are underdeveloped. The instruments which we have, the options which we have for listing are limited. In 1994, the company decided to go into the cement business, which was a value addition on the limestone which we used to mine. When we took this decision, one of the first constraints which came up was capital. Now, the company raised its first bit of capital through private placement. There were about 200 individual shareholders who joined together, and we were the first company to have a private placement in Kenya. In 1997, to support our expansion into the cement business, we decided to list on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. The listing was successful. We were oversubscribed, especially in a year which was an election year, and we had some kind of violence in that year. So we were fortunate that we got oversubscribed. We went ahead and we closed our cement plant. We went into production into 1997, and in the year 2000, to support our expansion further, we listed the first convertible debenture on the stock exchange. In 2005, we went back to the markets and we came up with for the first time we introduced on the CMA an unsecured bond, which was solely supported by the investors based on the company's credit rating. The company was credit rated by Global Ratings South Africa. We were credit rated for 5 years before we went in for this instrument. The information about the company was available with all the investors, and the investors took a decision on the risk their investment would stand by investing in our company. 2010, we went further to support our expansion into Tanzania. We went into the market with an equity-linked note. This was the first equity-linked note being offered in the country. Once again, it was oversubscribed. The funds which came in have now been applied to our expansion into Tanzania. I think the capital markets are underdeveloped, and the number of instruments which are available can be developed. Most of the companies need to work with the CMA and develop different kinds of instruments which would support their capital gains.
If you could make a recommendation, what would that be?
I think some of the rules and regulations need to be a little more investor friendly, and if they can be made investor friendly, I'm sure a number of more investors would come in, global investors would come in onto the stock exchange, and I think that's the only way to develop the capital markets.
Now, the story that you're telling about how you've needed to raise capital to expand further into the region seems to be a recurring theme with a lot of industry leaders in Kenya. Expansion through the East African community, and obviously I think supported by recent efforts at a common market protocol to really extend your reach into the region. But we're in an era where Africa is a different place, and we're told that the responsibility to change Africa lies squarely in the hands of Africans and African corporates. So we need to be thinking bigger than our regional space and thinking Pan-African. Are you thinking in that way?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we need to think Pan-African. We need to think global. Just as an example, Athi mining, 25% of our turnover comes from exports. We export products not only on the eastern coast of Africa, the west coast of Africa, we also export our products into the Middle East. We export our products into the southern Europe, Spain and Italy in particular. Now, Africa is a continent which is rich with minerals. Africa is a continent which is rich with resources. All what we need to do is to convert these resources and capture the global market.
Your leadership style, how would you describe it? Because when we come into your office, it seems to be one of those places where everybody knows everybody else. It's a very cozy environment.
Well, I think it's an all-inclusive kind of a management style where you include the people, get them committed to the strategies of the company, have everything clear in terms of their responsibilities, so that we can achieve the objectives. Now, I think it's an all-inclusive mandate which we try to run through the company, which has helped us to grow at the rate we have.
I think lessons for other, especially family-owned businesses wanting to grow and to raise their profile, what would those be, just in terms of organic growth and management, and then as you spread your wings?
I think in terms of what we feel other companies could gain by listing on the stock exchange, all what we say is that the capital markets is a great way of funding your expansion. It's a great way of creating value, not only for the company, but also for all the shareholders and for the employees. I think the risk that a lot of family companies may think is there by listing on the stock exchange, that they might lose control, is not really a barrier in practical terms. If your company is performing and if you are creating value, you're creating value not only for yourself but for the other shareholders. And I think at the end of the day, what matters is the value creation. So I would really like to see other companies, other family companies to be listed on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. I would like to see them being listed all over the African stock exchanges. In terms of culture and in terms of, I think our culture is no different. I mean, the world is integrating very fast. I mean, we are a global culture. And probably we have the best educated, skilled manpower which is available in our part of the world. We have the mineral resources, we have the metal resources, we have the capital, human capital. I think we have to just change the way we think and say, let's do it.
I'm glad you mentioned some of these issues that you've done about family businesses, and when they grow, that people needn't see a dichotomy between the interest of the family and the broader interest of the shareholder. And this goes to the whole idea of corporatization or commercialization, and what SMEs in particular need to be drawing on philosophically in terms of not seeing a conflict between the interests of a small exclusive group versus a broader group that can help to raise the profile and the fundraising of a particular entity.
A simple solution to corporatization is corporate governance. Put your systems in place, put your processes in place, get the best manpower to run it. At the end of the day, the shareholder value increases, and if the shareholder value increases, the family value increases. So I don't see there's a conflict there between this, and it should not be looked at conflict. In fact, Athi mining is a classic example where the family interests have been aligned with the interests of the other shareholders.
The lessons that you've learned personally as Surendra Bhatia in managing a business through so many cycles of change. We've spoken about the environment where we've moved from protectionism to liberalization. There have also been a lot of political changes that have unsettled the Kenyan economy, and then there have been changes in the global architecture generally after the post-credit crisis, and you've had to be at the helm all the way through.
I think Africa is a place where we still have significant constraints in virtually every aspect of the business, whether it's political constraint or infrastructural constraint. And I think one of the lessons which we have learned is keep your business model as simple as possible so that it's impacted by the least amount of variables. Second constraint is that, the second learning lesson has been be innovative. Now, you have a power constraint, but you need power to run your cement industry. How do you match the two? Right? You have to be innovative. You can't put up a power plant, so you have to be innovative. You have to probably connect yourself to 2 grids and ensure that your plant is running most of the time. The third learning lesson has been develop individual entrepreneurs and make them a part of your supply chain or your marketing chain. That gives you the strength to control your value chain, bring in cost efficiencies on both sides of the chain.
You talk about keeping your business model simple. What has that meant for you particularly, especially as you grow your profile to the rest of the region and try to be relevant for a new kind of Africa?
Keep your goals very simple. Don't try to achieve too much. But once you decide what you want to achieve, ensure that you have all the things in place. Think it out. Spend 4 times the amount of time planning your business and probably just 1 part of the time in implementing it. Planning is the key to success. Plan it so that everything is so simple that nothing stops it.
And in 3 words, the future of Athi River Mining Limited?
The best is still to come.
Oh, fantastic. Surendra Bhatia, Deputy CEO of Athi River Mining, talking us through the complexities of running a cement manufacturing business, but also an industrial minerals processing and value added company in the 21st century in East Africa with some of the infrastructure constraints, and in Africa as the mindset changes for investment domestically and internationally. And fundamentally, from all the things that he said, is that it's time that Africans started to see themselves as global players in a system of global best practice and in a system of global competition, and to just really, pull the bull by the horns and go out there and make it happen. The best is yet to come. That was Captains of Industry with the insights of Surendra Bhatia, the Deputy CEO of one of Kenya's leading industrial companies, Athi River Mining.